Hi everyone, it's Stacy. Thank you for coming on this yoga leap with me. Welcome back to anyone who's been practicing with me. Welcome to anyone who is just finding this video for the first time. Last week, if you did practice with me, we worked on a warrior series, which are both not both, we did quite a few warrior postures. They're very strengthening and also quite grounding. This week, we're going to continue with the sensation of grounding and being really present and connecting with our body and breath as always. It's been a rough winter, rough couple of weeks, and I think we can all continue to work on our grounding sensations. So for the most part, I do have my chair here. I'll be working between the chair and the mat. If you are waiting for me to cue in the chair or the mat, just go ahead and find a comfortable position, find a few breaths while you wait for me to catch up to you, either if you are on the chair or the mat. Otherwise, if you do use any other props other than a chair, go ahead and grab them. It might be blocks or straps, bolsters, blankets, whatever it might be. I don't really cue with them here just because I'm not sure what people have at their disposal at home. And if you want to hit a playlist, go ahead and do that as well. I'm not going to play any music. It doesn't translate through the phone and the video very well. So if you have a favorite playlist, go ahead and find something kind of calming and grounding. So nothing too crazy. We're going to bring it down a notch compared to last week and stretch and ground and get kind of deep and heavy. So having said all that, I'm going to meet you back and we'll start seated on the mat or the chair. Okay. So if you are starting in your chair, go ahead and find a comfortable seat. I'm going to start on the mat and just coming into any comfortable seated position. So that might be legs crossed. It might be lotus or half lotus if you're practicing that. It might be easy seated pose, legs a little bit wider, a little bit more open, or maybe you want to start on your shins. That's okay too. So something like this might feel nice for you. It might not. And if you do choose something and you find, oh, I wish I hadn't done this, just go ahead and get out of that posture and find something comfortable at any time. So the most important thing is that you're aware of the cues your body might be sending to you and making the adjustments as needed. So if you're in your chair, start to feel the connection of the sit bones to the chair. Maybe depending on what type of chair you have, finding a connection to the backrest of the chair and finding a connection of feet to floor. Or a nice option, if you do have blocks, is to have a block just on the floor in front of you, and that will help bring the floor up to your feet and allow you to sort of get a little deeper in your seat without your feet just kind of dangling in the chair or dangling above the floor while you're seated in your chair. For those of us on the floor, as I said, finding your comfortable seated position, settle in, rock side to side. Take a few breaths, breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth or the nose as well, and just make a bit of a noise, a sigh if that feels good. Let it all go. Depending on what time of the day it is when you are finding this video, if it's morning and you're looking to bring energy into the practice, maybe the hands can turn up, palms open to invite that energy in. If it's nighttime and you're looking to wind it down, maybe turning the palms down towards the knees or lap. And if it's comfortable, closing the eyes. If not, just gently tilting the head down, maybe finding a nice soft gaze at the floor in front of you, at something that's not moving and something you can rest your gaze on. A few more of those nice deep breaths. Inhale and exhale and just let it go. One more. Feel the shoulders kind of get heavy as well with that last breath. Let the breath just find a natural rhythm. Maybe notice the belly or the ribs or the chest or everywhere, filling and exhaling to contract, and inhaling to fill and exhaling to contract. So notice the movements in the body as you breathe in and out. Really letting the shoulders roll down the back on the exhale, melt into it. When you feel ready, you can blink the eyes open if they were closed. Bring the gaze up off the floor. And if the hands are turned up, let's just turn them down towards the shins or the lap. And we'll just start to circle through the hips a little bit here. Waking up the hips, nice and easy to begin with. Sort of pulling the heart space through and gently rounding through the back. But we're just warming up, so nothing too extreme here. Just moving the spine, rocking and rolling through the hips, noticing how that feels on each side. Let's switch directions when you're ready. You can change the cross of the legs here if you're ready to do that. You don't need to. And just noticing if the side, when you're going in this opposite direction, if it feels any different in any parts of your body. And then we'll come up to sit up nice and tall. Good, let's inhale, sweep our arms up overhead. Let's take a big stretch as we cross the, I'm losing the words for interlacing fingers there. There we go. Inhale to reach the palms up towards the ceiling. This time even maybe bringing the shoulders up. Reach, reach, reach. See if you can stretch along through the sides of the body. Palms reach up towards the sky. And then as we exhale rather, turning the palms towards the face, pulling the palms away as we feel that stretch between shoulder blades and rounding through the spine. So a little bit like a cat-cow here. Inhale to reach up. And exhale, reach away, round through the spine a bit, pull the shoulder blades. Good, let's do a few more rounds like this. Inhale again. One more, let's exhale, round. Inhale to reach up. Good, let's let the left hand drop down and the right arm will sweep up and over as we find a side stretch. So stay heavy here, grounding through the sit bones, both sit bones, especially that right sit bone. And think about lifting up and over, feeling a nice big stretch down the side body. You do this one all the time. See how it feels on this side. Stay for a breath. Gazes wherever it feels good on your neck. It might be forward, it might be down. Might be up towards the ceiling, underneath that armpit, wherever it feels good. Take one more inhale. Exhale. And then inhale through center. Reach, 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 reach. You can flip the palms up if need be. And then on the exhale, right arm will come down this time to find the ground. I take my chair out of the way here. And on the exhale, lifting up and over, finding that side body stretch on the left. Again, find where that's comfortable for the gaze, maybe down, forward, or up sort of underneath the armpit here. Keep opening up, keep reaching up and over and root down through that left sit bone. Find 2 more full cycles of breath. Really feel the space you create in between the ribs here when you breathe in and out in this big stretch. 1 more breath. And then inhale up through center. One last time, clasping those fingers if we like. Reach the palms up towards the ceiling. Inhale, reach, 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 reach. And then exhale, hands down by our sides. Good, let's just roll the shoulders a couple of times, forwards and backwards. Shake it out. Good. All right, let's move to our tabletop position. If you're in your chair, you can stay seated. For those of us on the floor, rolling over to one hip and coming to all fours. We're going to flow through a few cat-cows, and then we'll do some spinal balance to continue to warm up the core and start to get the hips involved as well. So we can drop the belly down here, tilt the tailbone up, draw the shoulders down and back as we look up without sort of cranking the neck. We're looking forwards and up towards the ceiling or up the length of the wall. And then on the exhale, really press the mat away, press, and round through the spine as we feel the shoulder blades come apart. Maybe moving through a few rounds of cat-cow. If you're in the chair, seated cat-cow, you can clasp fingers like we were doing at the beginning, or just inhaling and exhaling with hands on thighs. Couple more rounds here. If any sort of other movements feel good, some lateral bending, so creating a C shape with the spine, or even a couple of barrel rolls, or if you're in the chair, rolling, creating some hip circles like we were doing at the beginning. Just any intuitive movements here. If you are creating some circles, make sure to go in the other direction as well. Take 2 more rounds wherever you are. Even yourself out if you're doing circles. And then on the next inhale, come to a neutral spine. So just inhale, find that neutral spine, and then maybe sit the hips back, find a child's pose. Now, of course, if you're in your chair, you're just gonna fold forward over the thighs and reach towards the floor or the block with your hands. Find a child's pose. Knees can be together, or you can open them up, make a bit more space for that belly to melt down. Now staying here while I demonstrate an option in the chair for the move we're going to be doing in a minute. I'll join you back on the mat in a minute, but I just want to show the option in the chair here of where we're going. We're going to be engaging through the core a little bit from our tabletop position, and in the chair, we just want to scooch to the edge of the chair a little bit, and we're going to be inhaling to lift opposite arm and leg, and then drawing opposite elbow and knee together. Or option to step the feet a little bit wider, same arm, same leg, and finding a bit of a side crunch. So this is what it's going to look like a little bit more on the floor. We're going to be doing some knee to elbow, and in the chair, we can do opposite or same knee to elbow. So that's your option in the chair. I'll join you back on the floor here. Coming into my tabletop position. Let's kick the left leg out behind us here. Maybe just rock back and forth a little bit. If you're in the chair, just finding a few ankle circles. We can do that on the floor as well. Lift the leg up, circle through the ankle. Make sure when the leg lifts, we're not opening the hip. We're still drawing that left hip down, finding a nice long line of energy from the crown of head to the heel. Awesome. Maybe bending at the knee a little bit, warming up some of the muscles. Good. Coming to stillness, and if we feel nice and strong in our tabletop here, our one-legged tabletop, see if we can draw left knee to left elbow. So we're creating a bit of an oblique side crunch there, and then bring it back. If that feels a little awkward, option is to, just like in the chair, draw opposite knee to elbow underneath the body. That might feel a little more natural. We do that one quite a bit. We don't often do the side crunches, so I thought I'd change it up a bit today. So choosing an option in the chair, on the floor. Here we go. We'll do a few rounds. Inhale as we're reaching for length, whether the arm is coming with us or not. And then exhale, see if we can crunch elbow to knee, either underneath the body or find that side crunch. Create a C with the spine. Good. And extend. Inhale. Good. Do it again. Exhale. Whew. And inhale. 2 more. Exhale. Remember, you can be crossing underneath the body as well. Inhale to reach long. Exhale. Last one. All right, let's do a big inhale here. Exhale to lower everything down. Find some cat-cows or child's pose or some circles. Whatever feels best. You can move forward and back. Any movement. Few rounds of breath here. Let's get ready to switch sides. So coming back to our tabletop position, really root through the hands. So press the mat away, press into the fingertips, the knuckles, the thumbs, and really, really find a strong core here. Let's kick the right leg out. You can rock back and forth, or go ahead and lift the legs, circle through the ankles, maybe even bend and straighten the knee a little bit. I'm just gonna move over a tad. I'm gonna hit my poor little plant there. She's always part of the routine, isn't she? All right. And then when we're ready, remember the option can be to inhale opposite arm and leg and draw elbow to knee underneath, or we can find that sort of side crunch as we inhale for length here. Find the side crunch, draw the right knee to right elbow. Same in the chair, choose your option. Inhale when we're finding length, and exhale, really pressing into the mat, moving nice and slow, feeling that core work. Good. Exhale, draw knee to elbow. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Inhale. 2 more. Really be mindful of the movement. See how it feels. Last one here. Exhale. Notice how it feels different. Inhale for length and then lower down. One last time. Find some cat-cows. Maybe find a child's pose. A little bit of everything, whatever we need here. Awesome. From here, we're going to step into a lunge, a low lunge. So I'll just demonstrate in the chair. So if you're in a child's pose on the mat, go ahead and stay for a couple more breaths. If we're moving into a lunge in the chair, depending, of course, what type of chair you have, you may either want to turn sideways to come into a lunge. Front foot plants down in the front, ankle and knee aligned. Back foot steps back and we're on our toes. So we're not, unlike a warrior like last week where our foot was planted, we're gonna step a little straighter back, stay up on the toes here, and then turn the hips forward. You can tilt the pelvis. Immediately you might start to feel a nice hip flexor stretch. Leg can be as straight or as bent as you need in the chair, again, depending on what type of chair you have. The other option, of course, is to, again, depending on what type of chair you have, you might be able to do this facing forward. You just might need to scooch over to one side and then step the foot back. So finding your proper position for a lunge in your chair. And then I'll join you back on the floor. And from our child's pose here, if that's where we are, let's make our way to tabletop and see if we can step our left foot through. So we can lift the foot, step it through either to the outside or the inside of the hand. It doesn't matter, wherever we land is fine. We're going to make a few adjustments here. So hands can frame the foot. If you have blocks, again, I don't always cue with blocks, but if you have them, it might be a nice option to have them on either side of your foot here on any height. Well, maybe not the high height, but it helps to sort of elevate the floor up towards you. So framing that front foot, let's start to sink into that front foot, align just like in the chair, the ankle and knee, and let's let the hips get heavy. Let them be nice and heavy. If you need to put something under the knee, you can roll up the mat, or maybe if you have a blanket at home, you can put something under that back knee. Option to curl the toes as well. That may create a little more or less pressure under that back knee. So find what works for you here. Oh, you know what? I'm feeling tight. I'm actually going to go for these blocks today. So if you have them, or books, just don't want to stack books on top of each other so that they don't slip. But if you have a thick book and you find a bit of height with a book, that's great too. So we're just sinking into the hips. And just like on the chair, option to stay here or kind of come up onto the thighs will give us a bit more of a sensation in that right hip flexor stretch. Think about tilting the pelvis underneath the ribs, and we're getting a bit more straight up and down here, feeling that stretch in the hip flexors. And whether you're in the chair or seated, on the floor, you can start to just melt the hips forward. But notice my body didn't come too forward here. That's okay if you are there. But the option here is to tilt that pelvis and then sink the hips, staying upright. And that will give you a deep hip flexor stretch. It might be too much, so you may want to release a little bit. Really getting into the hip flexor stretch here. All right, let's come into a bit of a twist. So we're going to leave our right hand planted either on the block or the floor. And then we're going to inhale and sweep the left arm open. So we're in a lunge twist. If you're in the chair, you can twist in your lunge as well. You may just find you want to hook your elbow over your knee. You can do that finding prayer or any kind of variation with your arms. You can do that on the floor as well, or just use the block or floor underneath the right hand, find a twist. It's a little deeper crossing that elbow over, but it might be a bit more accessible in the chair. So lots of options. Reaching up, hips are sinking, open up. Good. Now, if we're nice and upright, let's lean forward as much as we can. I know in the chair we can't lean too forward, but maybe leaning so that you're resting your left elbow on left knee. And now we're going to find an opposite twist. So now we're going to sweep the right arm up. Now in the chair, you might be resting on the thigh. If you're on the floor, you might have your left hand down. Just a nice open twist to the other side here now. Feel the hips stay heavy. Lots of stretching. All right, take one more big inhale here. And then exhale, let's come out of the twist, plant the hands on either side of the foot. If we're on the mat, let's send the hips back, find a hamstring stretch. Now stay here, I'm gonna show the transition for the chair. If you are in your lunge position, to come and be able to stretch out the hamstring, we're just gonna have to move around to the front of the chair, step the right foot out. Now the right foot was facing forward, we're gonna step it out and hinge forward, and now we'll find a hamstring stretch down the right side. So I think the chair and the floor might be stretching out the opposite hamstring. It doesn't really matter as long as when we switch sides, we make sure we do the opposite side. All right, so I'm gonna move back to the floor. So if you're in the chair, stay in your hamstring stretch. If you're on the floor here, hips are sent back, hamstring stretch. Yes, on the floor, I'm stretching my left hamstring. In the chair, it was my right. Go figure. That's okay. Like I said, it's just the transitions are a little different in the chair. All right. You can point and flex through the toes. You can play with squaring the hips off, so sort of drawing that right hip forward, left hip back. See how that changes the stretch down the back of the leg. Same thing in the chair. You can play with leaning more forward, especially if you're in the chair. That will help increase the stretch. And if you're in the chair as well, you may be resting your heel on the block to bring the floor up a little higher. All right, let's come forward again just to transition. If you're in the chair, just step the foot in and find your comfortable seat. For me here, I'm going to remove my hands from the blocks. I'm going to move my left hand on the inside just so I can kind of swing my left leg back around. But any way you can get back to your tabletop that feels safe, go ahead and do that. And let's find a few cat-cows. Inhale and exhale. Same in the chair. Find a few cat-cows, press into the mat. Big deep breath through the belly and round through the spine. Good. All right, let's inhale and come through center, and then we're going to step our opposite foot through and do that whole sequence on the other side. So maybe you want to step that right foot to the outside or inside of the hands, whatever works. And then we'll frame the front foot, and again, the options are here for the blocks to be on any height. And we'll just start to get ourselves into our lunge position. If you're in the chair, you're going to swing around to the opposite side. We'll start to let the hips be heavy. You can stay with hands grounded on either side. Or if you're on the floor, you may want to crawl up, rest hands on thighs. Again, patting underneath that back knee if need be. And now we're in a little bit more like a chair position. So let's tilt that pelvis. Think about tilting it to line it up underneath the hips. And without leaning forward, kind of sink forward. Really feel that deep stretch in the left front hip flexors there. So remember, options are to be upright and sort of sinking in, or for a little less intensity, leaning forward, pressing into the floor or blocks, still sinking the hips. Still thinking about keeping the hips square to the front as well. So any option. Remember, toes can be curled under if that feels better for you. Depends, that can feel intense or less intense depending on your body, of course. So it's always about listening and checking in with our breath and body here in these big, deep stretches. All right, let's add that twist. So let's do our closed twist first. I'm going to end up twisting away from you. So I'm going to press into my left hand into the block or floor, and I'm going to sweep the right arm up and open, coming into the twist. Now remember, in the chair, you may want to be pressing into that thigh, twisting, or leaning forward, elbow across knee, and finding an arm variation. So lots of options there. Twisting towards the front leg, hips are still sinking, twisting, breathing, checking in. If it's too much to lift the arm, you can always bring it down, stick your hand in your back pocket. Let's take one more big inhale. As we exhale, we'll untwist and we'll switch sides. So now my right hand's gonna plant down, my left arm will swing open. I'm in a big open twist here. Woo. Now remember, of course, in the chair, you might be up on your knee. And it might feel different on this side. This side's feeling quite intense for me, so I wanted to come up a little bit, shorten the levers, make the twist a little less intense, but I'm still sinking into the hips here. All right, one more breath. Let's close that twist. Plant both hands down. If you're on the floor, press the hips back, come into that hamstring stretch. If you're in the chair, of course, swing around to the front, step the left leg forward and hinge over that outstretched left leg. Find the hamstring stretch down the left leg. If you're in the chair, right leg. If you're on the floor, options here. If you're in the chair, folding deeper. Everybody can think about squaring their hips off, so pulling the right hip back, left hip forward if you're on the floor, seeing how that changes the sensation down the back of the leg. You can wiggle the toes. Just find a nice big hamstring stretch here. Let's take another breath. And then we'll just pull ourselves, if we're on the floor, back through our lunge. And if you have blocks, moving them out of the way, plant the hands just so we can step that foot back. Find a few rounds of cat-cow if we like, or circles, barrel rolls, whatever we need. Same in the chair. Just find a few breaths. And then when we're ready, let's find a child's pose just for a breath. Take a rest. Breathe into the backside body. And then let's lift the forehead. Coming up to seated, so just swinging around onto one hip. We'll bring the legs out in front of us, and we'll find a little bit of a wide leg forward fold here. So we worked on the hips, we worked on the hamstrings. Let's work on the inner thighs a little bit. So we're gonna come into a big wide leg seat. If you're in the chair, step the feet wide as well. Feet can be on blocks. Sit up nice and tall. And if we find that when you're sitting, you're sort of rolling back on the pelvis, options are to maybe roll your mat up, put a blanket under the hips or a block. That's going to automatically help you roll forward and sort of get a nice long spine. Another option, if you are on the floor, or depending on what type of chair you have, is to bring the hands behind you and sort of press forward. So you can see if I'm sort of rolling back, I'm sort of slouched here in the pelvic area, bringing my hands behind me and just pressing into the floor, rolls the hips forward, and we have a nice tall spine. Knees can be bent or straight depending on how it feels. Good, and you might stay here. This might be quite intense already depending on the flexibility. And if not, maybe bringing the hands forward and working your way with a flat back, walking, making your way down towards the floor. We don't want to lose the integrity of the stretch though. So toes want to point straight up towards the ceiling still. If you're in the chair, you may be resting your hands on your thighs as you start to hinge forward, just to support so you're not just flopping forward. Finding that nice, tall, long spine to begin with. Once you find your edge, which is where you can't sort of fold forward anymore without, toes curling in or rounding through the spine, just stay here. Find a breath. And then let's walk ourselves back up. Okay, let's do one of my favorite stretches. So let's bend the right foot, bring it in towards the thigh. In the chair, you're gonna come into like a bit of a figure four. So you'll cross your right ankle over left knee and you'll hinge forward, finding a nice stretch here. On the ground, that is an option as well, a seated figure four or lying down figure four if you want to get right into your hips if you're really feeling it. If you're going to come with me, sitting up nice and tall, we're going to take a big inhale, and then we're going to twist towards the short leg to begin with, and then we're going to sort of side bend towards this outstretched leg. So left arm can reach along left leg, right arm can reach up, and then we'll side bend over. So this is similar to what we were doing in the warm-up. It's a bit more intense and a bit more purposeful with the side bend rather, because we set it up so well at the beginning. Hopefully where we're feeling this is a nice stretch down the sort of side of the back, the QL, and maybe into the hips. So staying here, or I'll just demonstrate if you chose a seated figure four, it might look something like this, supported behind with the hands, walking the feet and glutes closer together, maintaining a nice tall back, feeling a big hip stretch. So a couple of options here. I'm coming back to this one. Like I said, it is one of my favorites. We haven't done this one specifically in a while. Oh, I love it. Take another full round of breath here. And on the next inhale, let's come up and we'll switch sides. So we'll open up that right leg, bring the left leg in, find that nice tall seat, or make our way into our seated figure four. If you're coming with me, take a big inhale here, twist towards the short leg, and you can see we're already going to be able to set ourselves up for a proper side bend. Reach that right hand along right leg, sweep the left arm up and over, side bend, or figure four. Root down through the hips. Keep opening up through the top shoulder. Gaze is wherever it feels safe for your neck, of course. And let's stay for 2 more full cycles with breath. And on the next inhale, let's come on up through center. Awesome. Let's just open the legs up a little bit, shake them out. Let's bring our hands behind. I'm just going to switch my orientation here. And And to begin with, let's just lean back into the palms, step the feet wide, and we'll windshield wiper our legs from right to left. In the chair, you can do this, step the feet wide, windshield wiper a little bit. All right, we'll flow through a little sequence. Let's bring the feet about hip width distance, fingers facing forward or just out to the side, and we're gonna come into our reverse tabletop. So I'll show an option in the chair in a minute. We'll do 2 rounds of this. So to begin with, on the floor, plant the feet about hip width, press through feet and hands, lift the hips up, open up through the front side body. So press into the feet, press into the hands, open, open, open. Don't let the head fall back. Imagine you're holding a little fruit between the chin and the chest. Stay here, stay nice and open. Stay there for 1 more breath and then lower down. Prepare for the next round, and if you'd like, while you're waiting, you can forward fold into a butterfly and wait for me to catch up with you. In the chair, your option, of course, is cat-cow breath, or as long as you have a nice stable chair that's not going to slip and slide, I'm just going to turn the chair sideways. You don't need to move your chair around. What an option of the open tabletop might look like, again, depending on the chair you have, is to step the feet hip width, and we're going to press into the chair and lift the hips up. So we're still using the chair. It's not quite as intense, but make sure your chair is safe and sturdy to do that. And that will be your option for our reverse tabletop. And if you're on the floor waiting for me, let's come on out of our butterfly here and set up for our round 2. So let's draw the knees together, bring the hands behind us, fingers facing forward or just out to the side. And when we're ready, plant the feet, press into the hands and feet, lift the hips, press, 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 open, open, open. Option is to come into a reverse plank with legs straight out in front of you. It's a bit more intense. Press through the shoulders, make sure we're not dumping into the shoulders. Press and open, stay for 1 more breath. And on your next exhale, let's lower everything down, folding forward again in any shape. So you might want to come into a butterfly. You might want to have legs straight out in front of you. In the chair, same thing. You might want to come into a wide leg fold again. So whatever feels best for you, find a forward fold. Breathe into the backside body. Go ahead and round through the spine this time. Just start to let it all go. Stay for 1 more breath. On the inhale, we'll start to roll up. And depending on how you like to close your practice, we'll start to move into our Shavasana. Now you can make your way down to your back. You can come into a seated position. And if you're in the chair, finding that nice comfortable seat. And maybe if you're seated, you might want to try lotus or half lotus. We did a lot of work through the hips. You might be feeling like you want to give a little bit more to the final posture here. But as long as you can settle in for a few rounds of Shavasana breath, wherever you are, let's come back to that energy. Do we want to bring the energy down by turning palms down, or do we want to invite energy in? So choosing how we want to place the palms. If you're lying down on the ground, palms can be turned up or down by your side, or maybe you want to bring 1 hand to belly and 1 to heart center. Find a few rounds of deep breath. Notice where you notice the breath. Notice the rise and fall of the belly and chest. And just start to scan your body. Notice if you are holding on to any areas of tension, and just try to breathe a little loving kindness that way and let it go. Shavasana is the time for our physical and energetic bodies to absorb all that good work we just did and turn it into something magical, like healthy, happy hips. It's a time for integration and rest. And know that rest is different from sleep, and that we need both every day. And we should never pass up an opportunity to just rest and do nothing. And of course, the beauty of practicing through the recorded lens is that you can just let the video play out and stay in Shavasana as long as you want or need. You can press pause, or if you're ready to start waking your body up, you can wiggle through fingers and toes, maybe circle wrists and ankles. And depending on where you are, you might want to stretch long or curl into a little ball, whatever feels best here. And if you're not already seated, making your way to a comfortable seated position, hands can rest on lap, they can come to prayer at heart center, or they can simply rest over the heart space. We'll take a big breath together. Let it go. Let's do it one more time. Thank you so much for allowing me into your personal private yoga practice spaces and for allowing me to be your guide through these postures. I hope you enjoyed, and until we have a chance to be together and flow again, take care. Thanks, everyone. I hope that is exactly what the doctor ordered. I know hips are quite popular and usually quite welcome. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope to see you here again next week. Until then, take care.